A judge just shot down Gavin. Gavin's like, the feds can't come here. They can't send their Marines and they can't send their National Guard. And you know what? We're not in agreement with this. So they can't come here. And you know what the court said? Too bad, buddy. You know what? They have the jurisdiction. And so we're not going to immediately dismiss them. He wanted this emergency dismissal, okay? This emergency request. And they said, nope, we'll look at the case. We'll hear the case. You can make some arguments on Thursday. But the deal is that the federal government has that right? You can go on about this and that all you want, but the federal government's job is to ensure, ultimately, at the end of the day, law and order. And if a state can't do it or won't do it for any reason because they don't believe maybe in the policies of the federal government, well, it's too bad because there's this little thing called the supremacy clause. Gavin, did you not go to law school? I mean, it seems like everybody in politics went to law school, but even if you did, I don't think it would matter.
Where's your decency, Mr. President? Stop. Rescind this order. It's illegal and unconstitutional. And I said it, I'll say it again, it's immoral. You're creating the conditions that you claim you're solving, and you're not. And you're putting real people's lives at risk.
I don't know about that. And by the way, Donald Trump is all for home and arresting Gavin Newsom. I don't think that's actually going to happen. But he doesn't need it to get that far because you know what? The courts are going to work this out. And already they're saying, Gavin, it's just not going to fly. Incidentally, did you notice how much that MSNBC reporter looked exactly like Rachel Maddow? Go back for a second.
Where's your decency, Mr. President? Stop. Rescind this order. It's illegal and unconstitutional. And I said it, I'll say it again, it's immoral. You're creating the conditions that you claim you're solving, and you're not. And you're putting real people's lives at risk.
Yeah, right? Am I right? I realize I'm going off on a wild detour right now, but I've noticed that so many of those correspondents, really and truly, over there on MSNBC tend to look like carbon copies of Rachel Maddow. What's the guy that has the evening show now, Chris Hayes? Yeah, he looks just like Rachel Maddow, does he not? Like in the beginning when he first came on TV. And then here's this correspondent who I think is relatively new. I do not know who this person is, but hey, this person could go on to big, great things over on MSNBC because he too, as I just showed you, looks just like Rachel Maddow. Anyway, here he is outside defending everyone, saying, you know what, this is not fair, it's not right, really reflecting his own point of view, of course.
The big picture is Los Angeles is a so-called majority-minority city and a majority-minority state. There are more people of color that live in Los Angeles than white people at this point. And many of those people are undocumented. By some counts, 10% of the population of LA County, one of the largest counties, the largest county by population in the United States, is undocumented, maybe as many as 1 million people. Those people are our neighbors, our coworkers, our classmates, our friends, our parishioners, fellow parishioners in churches. They are part of the fabric of the city of Los Angeles. And
yeah, okay, so he's talking the right talk. He's got the right look. I'm thinking, Peppermint Patty, your days may be over. Anyway, I digress. That is sort of the party line, right, that you're hearing from MSNBC, and for this is not fair, this is not right. But again, let me go back to what the judge has just said. They're rejecting Newsom's emergency request. They're like, no, you know what? The federal government actually does have this power. So now we'll take a look at your case. You can present the arguments in a normal fashion, but here's the deal. At first glance, Trump, he has that power all day long. And we've talked about this before, right? Because of the supremacy clause, because of the commerce clause, because of the naturalization clause, you name it. And now they're looking at a situation where things are unfolding in real time and they don't want to tell you that there's any protests or any riots or anything's out of control. I mean, Maxine Waters, it's all just fine and dandy, she said, because nobody's gotten killed. Literally. I mean, she's like, well, where's the violence? I guess you get a really high standard there, a really high bar, Maxine, for the violence. But, they've had to deal with this to the point where now Karen Bass, the rather unfortunate mayor of Los Angeles, has come forward with a curfew. She announced that last night in order to try and get things under control. Over the weekend, however, Gary's metal detecting, thank you so much for the generosity. I got to get to these comments from you guys. I so appreciate it. You look over the weekend, right? And over the weekend, they were trying to say, oh, nothing to see here. It's really no big deal. But look, you guys have seen the video. I've seen the video. I think that there's actually a fair amount to see there. And we do have a lot of questions as to why we're seeing it and why it's happening now, for example. I think these are fair questions to be asking, and we're going to get into them momentarily with Anna Polina Luna, who's going to be in the house, and we'll talk to her about this because she has some theories on it. But look, I don't think what's going on there is good. Gary, I don't know where you live, but Gary's saying send more troops. If you're in California, I can understand how you may want that, right? Under the circumstances. Look, there's Mansam Sung, thank you again for your generosity, is not convinced that anything really is going to happen, that there is so-called dark money behind this. There is. And again, that's what I want to get into in just a moment, because you got to look at how much China may also be playing a role in bankrolling some of this nefarious activity, only because they want us to be fighting with each other, right? So Karen Bass out there saying it's not right, they're like sending all these people in and this is just creating the problem. So I get a kick out of it. They're trying to actually blame Trump for the problem. I mean, the real problem might actually indeed be, one, a community there of lawmakers who don't know how to do the right thing. I mean, this woman was off in Africa, was she not, when the fire started there in California? So she didn't know how to handle that, for sure. And then you combine that with an opportunistic governor who's trying to set himself up for a run against Trump. And so he's looking at it as a political opportunity. And I think, if you're the Chinese instigators there, you're laughing all the way to the bank thinking, well, okay, well, I'll confuse the U.S. over all of this. Again, she had to put in place a lockdown, a curfew last night. And again, it's better coming from her. You know what? We shouldn't have to get the National Guard out there. We shouldn't have to send 700 Marines. Nobody wants to have to do that, but you also can't have a situation that bubbles up into a real problem. But, they're saying, no, you can't do this. And I just go back to all the things that I've told you guys about before, that we have the federal authority, shall we say, as a nation, to exercise the right over a state of like California if they're in real trouble, which is what, again, I'm looking at the same video you're looking at, they seem to be in. And that's because of things like the Naturalization Clause, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4. The Congress shall have the power to establish a uniform rule of naturalization. Now, what does this give the Congress the power to do? It gives the federal government the power and the authority to oversee immigration and who is coming to this country. All right, full stop. So if you want to change at AOC, you're actually going to have to change the law first. And by the way, Tom Homan's tried to explain this to you. Apparently you just don't get it. You also get the Commerce Clause, right? So they're regulating interstate commerce, and this is used for a lot. It gives the federal government a lot of power, if you would. You've got the constitutional basis for federal power over immigration coming from the Necessary and Proper Clause, which allows for Congress to pass immigration laws as needed in order to enforce its enumerated powers, because this Necessary and Proper Clause is, and I'll read, to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers. And so Article 1, Section 8, Clause 18, you can go on and on. I mean, basically, no matter any which way you slice it, guys, I'm going to tell you what the deal is. And that is that the federal government trumps, pun intended, Gavin Newsom, Karen Bass, all day long and then some. Okay, all day long and then some. And so look, they're just going to have to deal with this. And I think the good news is hopefully we can actually get things under control, because right now it's not a very good situation. Now, is it? Can anybody tell me that that is a good situation that we have there in California? No.